The next one is really from a technology architecture, and that is the data mesh. So, I think I alluded to this a
Say it in plural.
bit. That I cannot do. The data meshes. We're coining a new term here today, the data meshes.
That's
So
something I would love a listener. We must have listeners out there that know the data mesh singular much better than Sadie and I do. I mean, I guess I should just be asking Zhamak, who coined the term and who was on the show earlier in 2022, and that was episode number 609. So Zhamak coined the data mesh, and something that's really confusing for me, even as I was writing the intro and the outro to that episode, I was like, how do I talk about this in the plural? Why don't people say data meshes? Anyway, somebody can point out to both of us, Sadie and me, why that doesn't happen. But anyway, your second theme is data mesh.
yes. I think it'll say it in the plural because if it's data meshes, then it's too close to you're on a slippery slope to data mess, and that's not where we want to go with any of this at all.
I like that. That's my sub theme for 2023 is that we're going to have a lot of data messes.
That maybe we'll get into that when we get into the privacy and regulation. I think that's a good segue.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Perfect.
But yeah, so I mentioned this earlier when we were actually talking about NFTs of how much terms get changed, and it's all an evolution. And so we saw, everyone was talking about the data lake, and it ended up becoming what people call the data swamp, right? And so now we're moving on to the data mesh. And really, this is a decoupling of our applications, but more importantly, is that enablement for the business to self-serve. And I think this will continue to be a really big trend, especially in enterprises and existing enterprises, mainly for the fact that we just have so much data and so much opportunity. We have to offload it from our data science and data engineering teams and enable that business so that we can get to work on those really core models that are going to deliver that business value. So
yeah, maybe we should quickly, you've alluded to the capabilities there with the data mesh. And for people who haven't listened to episode 609, it's this idea of allowing stakeholders across your company to be able to make use of data. So it's instead of having a single centralized data store where a data analyst needs to run SQL or NoSQL queries to pull out information and provide that to the end user, with the vision of a data mesh, you could have HR and finance have their own data in a decentralized way, but it has standards across the company so that data can be shared between these different nodes in the mesh. And it also has built-in privacy rules so that somebody on the data science team can't see from the HR team's data what everybody's making in the company, for example. And so I don't know where you stand on this or with the terminology, Sadie. You probably know more about data meshes,
I know
than me.
meshes, no mesh.
And so Jamak was making the point that anybody who says that they have a data mesh today, any company that says they have a data mesh that's available for people to buy, it isn't true. Apparently, so there's a lot of companies will brand a product that is in the direction of her vision of a data mesh, and they will call that a data mesh, but it isn't really her full vision. She said that we don't have the technology today to build it yet, but maybe we'll be making inroads on that in 2023.
I'm going to agree with that, and kind of twofold, right? One is that there is the architecture of a data mesh, but a big portion of it is the business operation, right? So even if there's a company out there that says, hey, we can build this all for you and do it all for you, so much of this actually working is in your people and process model of it, right? It's the whole technology is to enable those business functions to be able to share the data. So again, I think it's more just a word of caution that if someone says they can do it all for you, there is no magic wand that I have found yet to date to make that happen. But if someone does have that magic wand, please do let me know.
So what's kind of our what's the specific prediction for 2023 with respect to the data mesh? What are we predicting will happen over the year? That hasn't happened yet in 2022. Is it kind of this idea that will be organizations will be taking a step in the direction of having that kind of decentralized data store? How are we going to monitor that or be satisfied that it's happened when we're looking back a year from now?
So I think I'm sandbagging for next year's prediction because I'm not giving you a strong metric for how we're gonna, I'm putting some safe ones in there.
I
So
want
it's
some
not
OKRs.
I'll make sure I get those too. And so this is really more for our CDO audience, right? In terms of
Right.
at an enterprise level, what's going to be top of mind for you? What are you driving
Right.
forward? And I think the pitfalls we're going to see this next year is back to what I mentioned last year, that data literacy. Okay, so you may have implemented this technology, but what's going to happen is when you put it in the hands of the users, are your customers in the business really ready to be enabled with this technology? And so I see us making inroads on the technology side of it and implementation this next year, but probably running into some barriers in terms of the full realization of the value that it provides and the cost savings because all of our stakeholders are not quite prepared for this change.
Right. That makes perfect sense.